It had been a day of raindrops. Katie found that if you leave your pail out in the rain, it will fill up with water. Orbie learned rain makes tiny rivers which flow into big puddles and drains. And they both discovered that raindrops on the roof make you feel a lot like taking a nap. It had been raining for 3 days. At first, Katie and Orbie played outside where they built streams and sailed boats and splashed in puddles until they were soaked. Soon they felt that they'd played every outside rainy day game that they could think of. Inside, they made puzzles, painted, glued, read, raced, dressed up, built castles, and... well, they felt like they'd done everything that there was to do inside on a rainy day. On the afternoon of the third rainy day, they asked Mom if they could watch a video. Mom didn't usually allow them to watch videos in the daytime, but I think even she was tired of the rain. So she agreed. The two friends chose a video about some old dinosaurs and watched it with interest. It seemed like it was over in no time at all. Katie got up and wiggled a bit. Orbie got up and checked the weather. As you can imagine, it was still raining. And Mom was busy upstairs, so Orbie popped in another video. This time it was the story about a little duck. When Mom came down, she heard the video playing and thought that they were still watching the first video, the one on dinosaurs. She was going to make a lot of spaghetti sauce and pulled all kinds of vegetables out of the fridge. When the video ended, they were disappointed because it was over so soon. Katie got up and stretched her legs. Then they decided to watch another one. When Mom heard the show begin, she called out for the two friends to please find something else to do. Usually they would have listened to her, but her voice calling to them was like a faraway sound. Orbie was staring at what the funny man did. Katie was laughing at the little girl in the story. It was great fun. Katie's body was really getting tired of sitting, and she started to wiggle. Without taking his eyes off the screen, Orbie put his legs up against the back of his chair and hung his head over the edge, watching the video upside down. Mom looked up from chopping onions and called again for the two friends to please go and find something else to do with their time. They'd watched videos long enough. Katie and Orbie didn't move. I have to explain, no one was being bad or ignoring Mom. It was just that they were very focused on the screen and didn't notice her calling. Mom added lots of canned tomatoes to the big pot and stirred it. Again, she called to them to please find something else to do. Nobody answered her. In the living room, Katie and Orbie just stared and stared and stared at the screen. Orbie had stopped blinking altogether. Mom washed her hands and headed into the living room. The two friends were still staring at the screen. She asked them to turn off the video very soon. Katie said, "Yes, Mom," in a dull, flat voice. Orbie made a tiny little sound that wasn't very loud at all. Mom was delighted they understood, and she left the room. With the spaghetti sauce simmering on the stove, she curled up with her book on the couch in the sunroom. She read for a while, but the gentle drumming of the rain made her very sleepy. When the stove timer rang out, she woke with a start. Mom hurried into the kitchen. She checked the sauce, then stepped into the living room. The two very quiet friends sat staring at the noisy screen. Mom turned the TV off with a loud pop sound. Katie and Orbie sat still for a moment, and then suddenly Katie jumped back to life again. But Orbie still didn't move. His eyes were wide open, but not blinking at all. They had watched 4 hours of videos. The afternoon was over now, and it was supper time. One video had run into another, and they wanted to see what each was about. Just then, Mom had to step back into the kitchen to answer the phone. Katie expected Orbie to flip right up, but instead he just slid down onto the floor like a wet spaghetti noodle. He lay on his back with his eyes wide open. Katie knelt down and said he should get up now. Well, Orbie sat up, but he didn't burble or toot or honk. He was still staring straight at the screen. His eyes were not blinking, and now his arms were stuck out in front of him like, well, like a zombie. Katie went to get Mom to help. At that minute, Orbie stood up and started to walk like a zombie. He banged into the couch and the wall, spun around, but never blinked once. When Katie and Mom came in, he was gone. They looked behind the plants and all around, but there was no Orbie. And they were just checking under the couch when they heard a door open. Orbie, the zombie, was heading outside. They hopped up, but he was already on the front porch. He banged into the pillar and spun around, but still did not blink. Suddenly, the rain came down hard, and he got soaked in the cold shower. And a good thing, too, because that woke him up. He shook his head, tooted. Mom and Katie were very relieved. As they dried off Orbie, Mom said some videos were certainly good for you, as there were a lot of things to learn from them. But too much of a good thing could become a bad thing. After all, growing children need to move and play and be part of life, not just watch it. Katie and Orbie looked at each other. Mom was right. At that moment, Katie thought of two pictures that she hadn't painted yet. Orbie decided to make parachute people and drop them over the stairs. That night at the supper table, Katie and Orbie talked about some of the things that they'd learned from their videos. Mom and Dad were very impressed. They also really liked Katie's artwork. And Mom even threw 3 paratroopers over the banister to give them a try. From that time on, whenever Katie and Orbie watched videos, they always made sure they played a whole lot of other things, too. Sometimes they even played zombies. And I know that when you watch videos, remember that after a while your body needs to get up and do something else, just like Katie and Orbie.